Hi, if you're thinking about making a move to Tulsa, Oklahoma, or one of our surrounding suburbs, then you need to know the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So today I am going to be completely honest with you, and I'm going to go over 5 things that are bad, aren't so great about living in Tulsa. And as someone who has lived in Tulsa for over 3 decades, I really have a great perspective on the city's strengths and weaknesses. And while there are certainly many things to love about Tulsa, most of my videos go through that, I really do want to focus on the things that aren't so great or bad, just so you have, an all-around perspective. So first up on my list is the weather. The weather here can be seriously awful. I mean, in the winter, I want to be in Valley. I wish I could spend the winter in Valley. In the summers, I want to be in Wyoming. We do have 4 distinct seasons in Tulsa, but the best seasons, fall and spring, are shorter than summer and fall. So we really just get 2 great months of that perfect patio, lovely weather. But, in the summer, the temperatures can be above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the winter, it can be super cold. The lows often dip, down into the 20s. And we have seen single digits, in the wind chill, below 0. And, every couple of years, it gets so cold for, a few days, the schools actually have to close. And, the reason being is because the kids at the bus stop, it's dangerous for them, to be out waiting while it's so bitterly cold. And the high winds here can make the weather feel more extreme. I always knew it was windy, but when I started doing the vlog tours for you, I started realizing how windy it was, because it seems like every time I get in my car 2 or 3 times a week, I hear the high wind advisory. And then of course, when I'm going through some of my videos, even though I've got the better microphone now, you can still hear that one sometimes. But it does make the temperatures feel more extreme. And on hot days, that's really not so bad. It's nice to have the wind. But it's also humid here. So the most humid months are, I think it was June and July. And honestly, I didn't even notice the humidity. But then when you're in places like, Arizona, or places where where it's high heat, but it's dry, it definitely feels different. So, and sometimes like my hair doesn't get affected by the humidity, but I have a couple of friends, their hair does, and they're like, oh, I hate these humid days. So it's when you're outside in our summer, you're definitely going to be sweaty. But with all that being said, I just read the Tulsa climatological overview on Tulsa's weather, and comparatively, it isn't really as extreme as I thought. So I am going to read it to you in just a minute, but I also want to touch on the snow. Now, you're going to get snow here every year, usually. I can remember 1 year when we didn't get snow, and then about every decade, there's going to be like a lot of snow, maybe ice potentially. But there's usually always enough to, have a snow day where school's called off, the kids can go play, make snowmen, sled, have hot cocoa when they come back in. And I love snow days. Don't be on the road during the snow days. We do not know how to drive, but snow days are fun. So I think we're talking about weather, but I think the snow days are a good thing. Okay, back to the climatological overview. I'm going to read this to you. I'll try using a weather voice, we'll see. So the city of Tulsa lies along the Arkansas River at an elevation of 700 feet above sea level. The surrounding terrain is gently rolling at latitude 36 degrees. Tulsa is far enough north to escape the long periods of heat in the summer, yet far enough south to miss the extreme cold of the winter. The influence of warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico is often noted due to the high humidity, but the climate is essentially continental, characterized by rapid changes in temperature. Generally, the winter months are mild. Temperatures occasionally fall below 0, but only last a very short time. Temperatures of 100 degrees or higher are often experienced from late July to early September, but are usually accompanied by low relative humidity and a good southerly breeze. The fall season is long, with a great number of pleasant sunny days and cool, bracing nights. See, this is opposite of what I've been saying. Rainfall is ample for most agriculture pursuits, and it's distributed favorably throughout the year. Spring is the wettest season, having an abundance of rain in the form of showers or thunderstorms. We do get a lot of rain here. And the steady rains of fall are a contrast to the spring and summer showers and provide a good supply of moisture and more ideal conditions for the growth of winter grains and pastures. The greatest amounts of snow are received in January and early March, and the snow is usually light and only remains on the ground for brief periods. The average date of the last 32-degree temperature occurrence is late March. And I'm going to tell you though, I never plant flowers till after April 15th because there seems to always be a freeze. And the average date of the first 32-degree occurrence is early November. The average growing season is 216 days. The Tulsa area is occasionally subjected to large hail. We do, and violent windstorms, which occur mostly during the spring and early summer, although occurrences have been noted throughout the year. Yeah, so March, April, May is our big storm season. Prevailing surface winds are southerly during most of the year. Heavy fogs are infrequent. Sunshine is abundant. And I will tell you, I have some buyers from Oregon, and every time, I'm doing a virtual tour with them, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so blue and sunny where you're at. So, some things you just take for granted. The prevalence of good flying weather throughout the year has contributed to the development of Tulsa as an aviation center. So there you have it. Oklahoma weather makes me want to leave the state at certain times of the year, but the extreme temps are usually short-lived and don't go on throughout the entire season. So that's actually a non-biased look that I'm pleased to know about. But let's talk about tornadoes. Now, yes, this is weather related too. This is number 2, but it's a big enough issue to make it number 2. They're scary and they're a big concern for for you guys, my relocation clients, moving to Tulsa. Now, again, they can certainly be devastating and deadly, but in the Tulsa area, not so much. While Tulsa is located in Tornado Alley, tornadoes do occur here from time to time. The reality is that they're usually not as severe as the ones you see in the movies, or, the ones in the Oklahoma City Moore area. And those have been like heartbreaking, devastating. But Tulsa's really are relatively weak. Wind speeds of less than 100 miles per hour. And in the past 30-ish years, most everyone is an F0 or EF1. Now, there was an F4 in 1993 in the East Tulsa area, and that was a pretty devastating one. But then again, something else to consider, looking at the glass half full, most every time we have time to take cover. We know when a tornado is coming, so we have time to take shelter. Watch Travis Meyer on the News on 6 and have a plan to take shelter. Do not drive during tornado warnings. Stay off the roads. If for some reason you do get stuck on the road, you need to get out of your car and take cover in a ditch. You can easily have a storm shelter put in your house, or go to a central room with no windows, like a hall closet or, under the stairs. And this is not me, but I have friends and plenty of Oklahomans, don't take cover. They're going to go out and watch to see the storm coming, try to get it on video. So, that happens too. So that's closing the chapter on tornadoes. And again, I have lived here for over 3 decades and I've taken shelter, plenty of times, but my home has never been hit by a tornado. And really in Tulsa a lot, like I said, it was those, the lower tornadoes. You're going to get, wind damage mainly. Okay, number 3 is Tulsa Public Schools, Oklahoma teacher pay and funding. Now, full disclosure, I am completely biased. I was in public education for 15 years. I served as a teacher, a high school principal, assistant superintendent. My husband is a school superintendent at one of the local suburbs. So I really do know the good, the bad, and the ugly. But first and foremost, I will and will always be a huge advocate for public education. I think that, public ed can completely change the life can completely change the life and a trajectory for a child. And so good public education is something that I will always advocate for. Now, I strongly hate what government interference has done to our schools. And I'm talking even, pre-COVID. So I do understand completely why a family would make the choice to homeschool or send their kids to a private school. I have nothing against that. I totally understand it. And I 1000% believe there are great options, for all of the above here in Tulsa. But let's talk about Tulsa Public Schools. Now, unfortunately, the data just isn't pretty. If you look at public data, majority of them are low performing. But with that being said, Tulsa Public Schools also has some nationally ranked schools like Booker T. Washington. And, you know, because of fair housing laws, and I am a realtor, there's things, you know, that I can't say, but I can show you how to look at data. And, you know, in an upcoming video in the future, I'm going to do that. But you can look up, you know, niche.com, great schools. The Oklahoma State Department of Public Ed, you know, has schools and ranks them in different areas. But one of the things that they rank them on is test scores, and those carry the most weight. And when I was working on my doctorate at the University of Oklahoma, one of my classes and topics was how income and zip codes coincided with test scores. So, you know, of course there's outliers, but more often than not, the higher the median income level of a zip code, the higher the scores were going to be. And that's just data. And again, there are definitely schools that buck that trend, but that is something to take into account. And personally, you know, I know that scores are important, but educational testing is a multi-billion-dollar industry designed to have winners and losers. And it's honestly really messed up. And I'm not going to go off on my soapbox here. Let me reel myself back in and, you know, let's go back to the data. You know, most of the suburban schools are going to perform better than Tulsa Public Schools. And education is such huge importance for a child. So I understand how important having a school that is the best fit for your child is. And again, as a real estate agent, I can't steer you on schools because of fair housing laws, but I can certainly, you know, give you data and information and sources to help you make the best choice for your family, you know, whether that's public education, private education, or homeschooling. And like I said, in the next week or two, I'll be doing a video series where I take a deep dive into, you know, Tulsa Public Schools and, you know, schools in the surrounding suburbs. So if you have kids and you're thinking of relocating to Tulsa, Oklahoma, then you'll want to be sure to watch that one. So make sure and tap that little bell notification and subscribe to my channel so you can, you know, be the first to know what's going on. But back to schools and funding, Oklahoma is known for having some of the lowest teacher salaries in the nation. And, you know, unfortunately, this has resulted in a situation where many of our schools are underfunded. We have a teacher shortage that is in Oklahoma, but that is national too. And while there are certainly some bright spots, such as the highly ranked magnet schools in the area, there are also many schools that are struggling to provide quality education to their students. But, you know, the teachers that I know and have met at Tulsa Public, they give their heart and soul, and, you know, they want nothing more than the success and education of their students. Public ed is just, it's hard right now. Okay, number 4, Tulsa can be challenging when it comes to maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Now, while there are certainly some healthy eating options available, one of my favorite places is locally owned Pure Food and Juice. They actually ship, you know, nationwide. It's so good. There's, you know, Trader Joe's. The reality is that many of the city's fast food restaurants and our diners and restaurants just don't have a lot of healthy options. But in the last few years, the scene is changing. You know, there are more and more local restaurants that are starting to offer, you know, some healthy options. And our grocery stores like Reese's, Target, Walmart are starting to offer organic and healthier choices as well. There's also a Sprouts, which is a great choice for food shopping too. And while there's certainly opportunities for outdoor activities like biking and hiking, the scenery here is, you know, less impressive than in other parts of the country. We have Turkey Mountain in Tulsa, and there's other parts of Oklahoma where it's absolutely beautiful to hike, like Robbers Cave, that's 2 hours away, Quartz Mountain, which is a little over 3 hours away, Broken Bow, which is 3 hours away. Gorgeous places where you can hike and enjoy, you know, enjoy some great scenery while being active outside. So there's opportunities to be outdoors. You just have to drive a bit. And in the winter, when it's cold, it really is hard to be active outside. You know, at least it is for me anyway. I'm not that tough. The summers aren't bad because you can be outside early in the morning or later in the evening, you know, to walk, jog, or bike. So that's not really bad. It's just the winters that are the hardest. In the summer, I'm definitely not getting out midday. And last, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's Tulsa's crime rate. And unfortunately, Tulsa is often listed among the most dangerous metros in the US, which to me has been surprising because I've always felt safe. And I didn't even realize this, but there's a crime show called The First 48 on A&E, and Tulsa was one of the cities that it featured. So, obviously there is higher crime. There are high crime rates of both violent and property crime. So again, why I personally feel safe living in the city, it's important to acknowledge, that there are certainly areas that are more dangerous than others, and that it's wise to take precautions like, locking your car, avoiding certain areas where you don't feel safe. And, the one experience I had was actually last year. My girlfriends and I were at La Fortune Park on the driving range. And, we go in the evening in the summer because it's so hot during the day. Well, one of my friends left her Louis in the car in plain sight, and someone busted out her window and stole her purse. So that was scary. But basically, I think if you don't do stuff like that and are aware of your surroundings, you're going to be fine. I have friends who, don't lock their house or car doors. They do live in more of the rural areas, but that's not me. I lock my doors, we have an alarm. I'm not gonna leave valuables in my car. I take precaution. But again, I really don't ever feel unsafe, but there are sites you can go to look at crime rates and so forth. And also a very sad thing is that a lot of the violent crime is domestic violence. And something along that lines that I really hate about Oklahoma too is we have one of the highest rates for female incarceration. All that being said, I do want to emphasize that there are so many things to love about Tulsa. But if you're thinking about relocating here, you really need to know the bad too. I feel like Tulsa really is a hidden gem. We have a thriving art scene, excellent dining options, we have fun and quaint things to do, and we have a great downtown area and lots of other things. So be sure to watch my video on the things that I love about Tulsa and the top 10 places to go if you're visiting Tulsa. And if this video is helpful to you, if you could tap that thumbs up and give it a like, I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can know everything that's going on in our local Tulsa area. And reach out to me and my team if you're thinking about relocating here. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, we would love to show you around town and help you make that seamless move to Tulsa, Oklahoma.